What's up, guys? Merc R Us back with another video here, and in this one I'm going to change it up and I'm going to talk about the premium carriers available to you at tier 8 and which ones I think are the best. I also hope to talk a little bit about how much stock you should put into this type of video and these types of opinions. I'll highlight that later at the end. But let's get started here. So the three main carriers at tier 8 that I think are the best ones, or should be considered as being the best ones, are Kaga, Chkalov, and Aquila. Enterprise fits in that bill, but it's not available regularly compared to the other ones. So I'm going to leave that out of this list. So let's start off with Chkalov. Chkalov has three key advantages to it. The one strike potential. You drop everything at once, so you got high alpha damage available to you. You do have that there's one big thing about that too, is the avoidance and basic negation of fighters, because fighters can't latch once the last attack group of a flight drops their ordnance. The fighters stop attacking. So that's basically this flight. It's the first and last and only attack group in this, or attack flight in this group. So it's pretty advantageous. Torpedoes are so hard hitting here with Chkalov that enemy battleships that are isolated and facing your allied battleships are in a tough spot. So if you look at that carrier doctrine, you know, I have at the bottom left there, what can't get away due to crossfire? This is probably one of those cases. Like this Alabama is very dead because he is bow in, and because he is now getting targeted by battleships and hard-hitting torpedoes that are doing like 12k at a time, plus potentials of flood. So really screwed there. And yeah, there goes another 1,200, or 12,000. It's disgusting. Chkalov also has flexibility to its advantage. The dive bombers, the skip bombers, can both be used against destroyers, and you do have that advantage. So do keep that in mind. All of its ordnance can cause damage over time, so you can get those fires and floods. The planes are slow though, so you can't really get back to a very far target like that Kansas. It'd be a waste of time to try and get damage over time on that guy, because he's just so far and the planes are too slow. But regardless, you do have that potential. Dropping so far from enemy ships is very advantageous because you take less AA with this ship. Torpedoes, not really the case too much. You do want to get fairly close on your drops to make sure that you're going to get contact. But it's still, I mean, the thing is just it's really great to be able to drop from a distance with these skips. And you know that obviously the dive bombers don't have that luxury. You really have to drop on top of the enemy ship, and you do lose a lot of them. So you really have to be strategic and tactical with those. Make sure you're leveraging terrain as much as possible to block AA for as long as you can before you take the damage. This ship I don't think does well as a bottom tier. Target selection is absolutely critical when it comes to that. Excuse me. Do I have any air? Yeah, I've got water. Hold on a sec. I'm doing one take, guys. We're doing it once. All right, doing it live. So yeah, Chkalov really does negate AA quite a bit. And it does have respectable AA. It has better AA than Kaga and Aquila probably combined. So that's just how bad Aquila is. So yeah, it's just a monster. And it can defend itself a little bit better than the other ones can defend themselves. So Now, let's move on and talk about... What damage did I get, by the way, in this match? I'm kind of curious. Blah, 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 blah. 149. Cool. All right, let's flip over to our Aquila. Now, Aquila, fairly new. Aquila's main advantages are speed and the high flood chance. And the best at being top tiered. So this thing hits like a goddamn truck, my man. I mean, you are slapping ships for, AK a strike is basically the base that you'll do with the rockets against cruisers. It's just disgusting. Like, you'll see 1,300 there, and that's because he turned. He was smart on that one. But the decent strikes are always going to be about 8,000. Torpedoes, very fast. But you have to consider pre-dropping a lot of times because of the low health of these planes. They are incredibly low on health. So yeah, it's not ideal. Pre-dropping against battleships is kind of the norm, unless you can leverage terrain. Here you'll see that I just decided to try and hit this Z-39. I thought he was going to slow down there, but he didn't. And yeah, we get our one strike here on Leon because we're going to lose these planes fairly quickly. So there goes one. And there goes two. The second one there is already injured. So turning around and trying to get a second drop, just not going to be really possible. And yeah, look at that. 12,000 drop right there. It's very solid for this fast of a plane type. Aquila's rockets do really respectable damage against DDs too. You typically want at least 4K, 3K, 3,600, something like that, on a drop. And this thing delivers in that respect. So it can hunt DDs, despite the armament type of AP rockets. You're dropping like 60 at a time, so you're going to make contact. So it's always worth it to hit the DDs when you can in this thing. I think it is the best top tiered one out of these three ships, and yeah, it can be very powerful to deliver those hard hits and get to the places it needs to be to deliver these high impact weaponry. Let's flip over to... Oh, I want to show this. There was a good hit in this battle. Oh yeah, Nuremberg here. So yeah, Nuremberg had a hard time here. Yeah, Aquila, the rockets, very, very strong. So that strike, not the biggest one, but if you get a nice solid broadside against a cruiser, you can just smash him. Just take a look. Ouch. Oh man, that's just one of my better ones that I just wanted to show you real quick. It just happened in the last game. And how do we do? 150, 160 in this one. So definitely this has really high output. Highly recommend it if you know how to kind of maneuver and control your planes. Let's flip over to Kaga here. Kaga is probably my favorite when it comes to these three carriers. And I base that solely on the ease of play. I mean, this thing is very user-friendly. You have so many planes, it's relaxing. I mean, you're mostly focused on battleships and capital ships, ones that can't maneuver, because this thing is just delivering high-impact damage and damage over time. The flooding is only 31% for a torpedo, but you are dropping 4 at a time. You have a very powerful heal, and you can leverage that so well in different instances. This is like the worst attack flight ever, so let's just skip that. But yeah, I mean, the damage over time is just really good. The planes are not like dead slow, you can still get to places, and you do have the capability to get damage over time with this thing. And you can time your drops. I mean, you can do one strike, wait for them, their repair party to run out, or damage control, whatever it is, and then revisit them with that same attack flight, because your squadrons are generally so big, and then get that perma flood or fire, you know? Dive bombers are really useful versus these destroyers for that are trying to cap. I never use the rockets on this thing. I'm gonna get to that in a minute here, but the dive bombers are very accurate versus the DDs. And it's got a very small reticle. It reminds me very much of Midway. And they are HE, so you can knock out and incapacitate these things quite a bit. And it's really helpful when they don't have their AA on too. But yeah, we're just resetting this guy, and yeah, you can definitely deliver the damage to DDs just with the dive bombers alone. This thing has the worst rockets at tier 8. I think they're absolute garbage. I hardly have to use them though, thankfully, because of the large reserves. We're talking about 36 planes on deck for torpedoes. That is insanity. Coupled with the heal, it is just tremendous. I mean, you should be specking around your torpedoes as much as possible with this thing, because you have so many and they deliver so much damage. It's just amazing. I mean, the heal, you can use it and time it against enemy carriers to get 2 drops on one flight. It's sick. The torpedoes can also be leveraged against DDs if you wanted, and try to line them up right. I think I don't get a good lineup on this one. I misread what this guy's going to do. I think he's going to drive forward when you're under attack, but he actually decides to back up, which is very strange to me, because you're perma-spotted now and you're open firing. I digress, though. Yeah, Kaga is just very user-friendly. It is the best one because of the huge reserves. It can hold out in tier 10 the most. And yeah, we slap that daring here. It can hold its own versus tier 10 much more than the other two. Considering tier 10 is, 20% of your games, that's a pretty high percentage. I think I have to mention that it is the best when it's bottom tiered. And team play. The Chkalov, the Aquila, if you're not too comfortable with attacking and you want to be a team player, I think Kaga is your best bet on that. Because of the high reserves, you don't have to take the restoration equipment module for this carrier. You can use the consumable and drop fighters to spot ships for an extra, an extra 30 seconds. And then a big bonus of that, so just to be clear on that, that's using the fighter as a spotter, and you get an extra 30 seconds of spotting. So it's pretty advantageous. Also, it extends your heal time for your torpedoes. So again, it's a bonus to your main weapon with this thing. So I highly recommend using the consumable mod for this carrier. So yeah, spotting, very good. Large squadrons means you're hovering around in one area at a given time, so that's more staying power and more time to stay and spot something. So again, a really good carrier for user friendliness and for team play, and bottom tiered and damage over time. I'll just share this image too, to show you a better idea of what I'm talking about. So if you're fairly new to carriers, Kaga's the way to go. If you want your tier 8 and you hit flak every now and then yeah, Kaga's your best bet. If you're very well acquainted with carriers and you're very comfortable with considering leveraging terrain and target selection, then Chkalov would be a good choice too. Would that probably be your next one? Aquila, really good damage output, but I think I would save that for after these ones. It's not bad. It's not a bad carrier, but because of the low health and because of the because of the low health, really. I mean, that's what it boils down to. I would save that one for last. So yeah, in that order, Kaga for beginners, Chkalov for intermediate, and Aquila for advanced. You can really make Aquila work and be a monster if you really know how to play. And to that point, I do want to just talk a little bit more about why you should take these types of videos and types of recommendations with a grain of salt. These are tools, right? So using the right tool for the right job is absolutely critical. We all know that. You can still, like, if I need to unscrew something, I could probably use a flathead where a Phillips would be necessary, but it's not going to be as efficient, right? So what am I trying to say? Basically, if you don't know how to unscrew something, doesn't matter which one you use. You definitely need to know how to do that. So when it comes to carriers, if you're not avoiding flak well, maybe it's an impairment you have. Maybe you're just learning them. I mean, try and stay at tier 4 and tier 6 and really get comfortable with avoiding flak. At tier 8, you're really going to start facing very strong flak, and even the best of the best. I mean, Nevsky's really got some of the best AA in the game, in my opinion. I mean, there's Vermonts and Hollands. At tier 8, you're just getting matched with those ships. So, and at tier 8, I mean, you got the Div 7 Provincia, whatever that thing is. I mean, there's a lot of strong AA at this level. So, again, flak avoidance is critical to succeed in any type of carrier. Target selection is absolutely huge. That's what my bottom left hand of my screen is always talking about. You need to know what you're targeting and choose correctly. Planning, you do need to be able to plan in carriers. You need to, not just your attack approach, so you don't want to just go bow in because it's easier. There needs to be a reason behind that. Also, you need to consider what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes, the next 7 minutes of the match. So are you in the right place at the right time? Here, I should have moved up earlier because Conqueror and whatever else was out there, I think it was the Atago, were way out on the outside, so I could have moved to the middle much earlier to reduce the time it takes to get to Riga, Brindisi, Nevsky, Kaga, etc. And then there's, the mechanic abuses. I think I'm going to make a separate video for that to talk about the abuse of the mechanics in this game, like pre-dropping and fighter abuse. Leveraging all of these types of things, being a master at those, at that point, it's really not going to matter what carrier you take. You're going to be disgusting in all of them, So that's basically all I wanted to talk about in this vid. Again, Kaga is your go-to if you're a beginner and for user friendliness, and if you have trouble with flak. If you want to force yourself into tier 8, then yeah, Kaga, go with that. Chkalov for if you know how to use all these things and you're good at flak avoidance, target selection, and leveraging terrain, etc. And Aquila, if you want to change up the pace, if you're very good at these carriers and you know how to pre-drop and such, and you want to deliver hard impact strikes at critical points, then yeah, I think Aquila could be your go-to too. So yeah, that's kind of it. I'll also say that yeah, Kaga definitely the most relaxing, just because you're targeting mostly large ships most of the time. So I did want to throw that out there as well. Hopefully that kind of helps and is it's a little bit of a different kind of video. I try to avoid these, but it was asked for, so I figure I get it in there. And yeah, hope you guys have a great day. GG!